Welcome to Glow State. I'm your host, Courtney Page. As a former executive recruiter, career coach, actor, and yoga teacher, I'm demystifying how people have designed the creative career and life that was meant for them, and how you can too. Now, for this week's episode, let's get glowing. Our guest today is the amazing Debbie Troyan. Debbie is a certified yoga instructor, a reiki healer, and has most recently received her licensure in massage therapy. So before foraying into these healing modalities, Debbie spent over 2 decades working in corporate America, more specifically in tech. In addition to all of this, she's been married for over 20 years and has 3 pretty cool kids, the youngest of which just finished her freshman year of college. Is that right? Is all of that right?
So far, so good. Yeah.
Okay, good. So right now, and for the last 5 years or so since I've known you, you've kind of been collecting certifications in the healing arts. So before we get into all of that, which I really want to get into, but before we get into all of that, what was your job before going down that road?
I was a software engineer for over 30 years. So I've been in tech since before the internet.
Yeah. Yeah. And you were working from home before that was a thing. I remember. Yeah.
I was telecommuting before telecommuting was a thing.
How did you get that job? Like, what got you into tech?
So I got into tech back in the late 80s. In high school, my senior year, they brought in a computer because computers were not around. So they brought in a computer my senior year in high school. I sat down in front of it and thought it was the most amazing thing in the world. And I started programming, I started coding, and kind of segued my way into the tech world. Now, my freshman year of college, I went to University of South Carolina because I wasn't real sure what I wanted to do. But then Drexel University started offering a lot of degrees in tech, one of them being information systems. I am one of the first recipients of a degree in information systems ever. So I got that back in the early 90s. And like I said, this was before the internet. This was before Windows. We're talking Fortran, DOS. We're talking basic programming languages, ground level stuff. Got into that, started my internship at a company called Software out of Pennsylvania and stayed with them for 30 years. My last 2 years were with a competitor that bought our product. And I kind of had an idea that I was on the outs at that point in time when the product got sold and the competitor then decided to sunset the product. And that's when I segued into more healing. Yeah.
Okay.
In a nutshell.
So, I was always interested because I knew that you worked in tech, and anyone who works in tech, I'm like, how? Like, how do you do that? But what made you stay so long?
I loved it. I loved working in tech, and I loved it up until the end. And then when I started looking for a job, I realized Google really has replaced a lot of the tech needs. I was in a world back in the 80s and 90s where nobody knew how to work computers. It was so new. I mean, building a computer, programming anything, using word processors back then, nobody knew how to do it. So knowing how to do it, you were definitely a hot commodity. People wanted you. They wanted your knowledge. They wanted you to come in and help them do things, turning on computers. People couldn't even do that. So being able to take them apart, fix them, program them, design things, all that fun stuff with it definitely was in my flow state with tech. I would get involved in things so deeply. And my husband would be like, "Are you coming to bed?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, I guess I should eventually put this away and come to bed or do something else, take care of my kids."
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, like what about it was so interesting? Just the fact that it was new or the challenge? Okay. All right.
I love Tetris. So that's the joke now. Whenever somebody tries to pack a car, they're like, "Deb, can you come pack this car?" Because I love Tetris. I love a puzzle. I love a challenge. I love being able to figure things out. Give me that needle in the haystack. Why is this program dying at this certain part? Why is it crashing here? Why, when I put my data in it, is it not showing up where I expect it to? I love that challenge. I love that excitement of finding something and diving deep down into it.
Yeah. Was the fact that it was that you were a hot commodity at the time, that not a lot of people were doing that, was that something that made it attractive to you, or was it just simply that this is a challenge?
That was an aside. I mean, to be able to make the money I made and to be so important in my role for so many years was just a bonus to what I was doing. I just My boss always jokes. He's like, every year we do these evaluations and they're like, oh, should we give Debbie a raise? We're not sure. And he's like, she doesn't need the money. That's not why she's here. She's not here for the money. She's here because she loves what she does. So if you let her go, you're going to lose somebody who's passionate about this. So luckily they gave me the raise, but
I was going to say, I really hope that they still gave you the raise.
Yeah, they still gave it to me. That was discussion every year. Should we or shouldn't we? And it was always that she's doing it because that's what she loves to do.
Yeah. Were there ever any days that you were just like, had the Sunday scaries or anything like that?
I was always on call 24/7. So there were no Sundays for me. I was always, if somebody's computer didn't work, their time clocks weren't up, something was going on, I was the one that they called for that. So I was on call 24/7. And over the 30 some years, I didn't take a vacation per se. I just made my world work around whatever I was doing.
Okay.
We have our place in the Keys and I would take a boat ride in the afternoon and that was my vacation for a little bit.
Yeah. And so I guess you always had to just be able to be connected before connection was really like now everybody's always connected. But
it was the last 10 years was so easy. But prior to that, it was a little bit more challenging. But yeah, definitely. The last 10 years, I could take an iPad and go work in the boat. Prior to that, I just had to make sure that my phone was on and that I had some kind of a connection to an internet or a dial-up somewhere.
Yeah. Oh my God. Dial-up. Yeah. Okay.
Right?
So that's like, I can hear it in my head.
Right? I can't mimic the noise, but we all know what it sounds like.
Yeah, we all know it. We all know it. Okay. Having known you for a while now, it's so clear to me that you had this very creative, empathetic, no bullshit kind of attitude towards life. I'm curious to know how, now that you're in yoga, something that is seemingly so on the other end of the spectrum, where did that come from? Where did the yoga come from tech, or were you always kind of into yoga? Like, what were you like as a kid? Like, were there any glimpses of future healer Debbie when you were working on a computer? Like, how did those two things manifest in the same person?
It's so funny that you asked because I just reconnected with a friend from high school. And she says, when I saw that you were teaching yoga, and she just moved from New Jersey to Florida, and she says, I saw you were teaching yoga. And I'm like, that's interesting. She's teaching yoga. And she says, and then I thought about it. She says, do you remember how you and I met? And I'm like, we met on a ski trip, I think, during our high school career. And she says, yeah. She says, we were on a ski lift and you were sitting next to me on the ski lift and you opened up your jacket and you said, do you want a Snickers? She says, you always had food. You were always taking care of us. You fed us breakfast. You were always the one that was making sure everybody was okay. She says, you were never in a clique. You were never specifically friends with one group of people. You were friends with everybody. And you always made sure everybody was laughing and having fun and being okay. And in high school, I was a cheerleader. I danced for a long time. Now I'm 6 foot tall, so I was never going to be a professional dancer. That was not going to happen. Although I wished I would be a gymnast or a ballerina or whatever. That was never going to happen. But that's what brought me into yoga, because of the things that you can do in yoga that kind of are like gymnastics and kind of like dance. That's what brought me there initially. Then I found the mind part of it. And when I found the mind part of it, and I learned that I don't have to wallow in my shit for the rest of my life, like all that crap that happened to me all those years, that boy that broke up with me in high school, the guy who dumped me when I was in my early 20s, I don't have to feel that pain forever. The stuff that my brothers, my family, whatever, friends, people that I knew who made fun of me and Big Bird and spider legs and all this stuff you get called when you're really tall. You don't have to own that. That doesn't have to be who you are forever. You can let that shit go. I mean, I know it's cliche, but you can let it go. So I started reading a little bit. Started with Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now, being in the present, not living in the past, knowing that there's more out there in the future than what we're leaving behind us. And I think that so many people live in the past and are just wanting to feel something. So they continue to feel that hurt, that pain, because they don't know how to feel anything else. And they don't want to not feel anything. Santosha, living in the moment and being content, just being content with what you have and where you are. And when I started learning this, I'm like, God, I want to share this with everybody. So I got a little obsessed with it, but I'm obsessed with it still now. Yeah. I want to share it with everybody. I want everybody to know that you are meant to feel good in your body. You are meant to love yourself. You are meant to live in the present moment. All of these things. So that's pretty much the segue into where I am now. Tech was just an aside. I loved it. I enjoyed it. It was great. But, I'm a healer. So here I am.
That's so interesting that someone from high school could recall that, because I think we did our teacher training together, our yoga teacher training
Hmm.
together. And I think there was definitely this sense of, and I don't know if it's also part of your physical presence, which is just so like
Big.
charismatic. I mean, not even just the fact that you're tall, you have this amazing like platinum blonde hair and you're like tan and you're just so like you're like a
You're so
actual
sweet.
ray of sunshine. And I'm not just saying this to be nice, like she's like actually a ray of sunshine. And you have this kind of protector thing about you where it's like, if Debbie's here, you're fine. Like if Debbie's here, everything's gonna be okay. And I
You're
just
so sweet. I
remember,
love you.
no, but it's so true. And it's so funny that your friend from high school got that way back then. Like, I remember something that I, for whatever reason, have like a total block on are in yogas, inversions. Like, I just feel super like I'm going to fall on my face and whatever. But whenever we were going over those in teacher training, I always felt like so safe with you. I was like, okay, Debbie's got me. like Mama Debs has me and it's like gonna be okay. But I think it's so interesting that your friend could pinpoint that moment of like, you're just
Hmm.
there, like you're going to take care of everybody. And just what you said about being in the past, it's kind of like people are addicted to the past because it's comfortable, because we know how it kind of ends.
Right.
And there's this sense of being in the present. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know how it's going to end. But you seem so comfortable in that space, like being able to go in your I'm gonna out you and I'm gonna age you for a second. But like in your mid to late 40s, going off and getting a new certification, not a lot of people would be cool doing that and would feel comfortable and secure enough in themselves and in their life and where they are doing that. So how are you like that? How are you so comfortable
Yeah, that's a
with
good question. I don't know.
yeah.
I
Like
don't
is
know.
there
I mean,
something yeah.
I hear people say, "Aren't you afraid?" I'm not. I mean, I don't know. I guess I should be. I don't know. I'm afraid of
That's good.
sharks. Maybe I don't know.
I was gonna say, what are you afraid of? Is there anything that you would
I'm
just not
afraid of
do?
heights. Yeah, I
Oh,
don't. My
interesting.
daughter and I we like to go hiking, and we go like to Sedona, and we go to just different places and hike. And we get so far on the trails, I'm like, I'm done. And she's like, come on,
Oh,
we gotta.
really?
I'm like, absolutely not. I said, if I walk up that little area right there, you're gonna have to call the helicopter to come get me because I'm gonna freeze and get stuck there. But yeah, I'm afraid. And I know exactly when my fear of heights came in. My nephew, when he was about 4, we went on this crazy pirate ship, and it was a time in my life where I was not finally, but I was in charge of somebody else, and I was
Mm.
responsible for somebody else's life. And he
Yeah, that's
ran
a
off
big
from
one.
me in this pirate ship. Right now, it's scary.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
pirate ship rope ladder thing. He took off, and I'm like, oh my god, he's going to die. So I grabbed his buddy, and I'm like, we need to get down from here before you die, and your mom kills me.
Yeah, because she will.
Yeah, that was my first foray into being afraid of heights, and I'm like, oh, okay, I got to be careful up here. That's high. I could die.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so you were always kind of the person that like took care of people. I could
Mhm.
totally see that, and I think your friend hit that on the head. But when did you first feel this like itch specifically towards yoga?
Like I said, the yoga thing was it was a little bit of an egotistical thing for me in the beginning because it was back when Yoga Girl came out and she was on Instagram and she was doing handstands. And I'm like, the yoga has handstands in it? What the hell's this? On the arm balance and all
Hmm.
that. And I started doing that. And then my body started changing and life started getting a little easier, a little bit. I got out of my head and onto the mat. Like all of
Yeah.
the shit that used to like stress me out, I was able to kind of let go a little bit on the mat. And then, like I said, I just wanted to share it with everybody. But it got to be a little bit more intense when I started doing the hands-on assist and adjust it and that connection with people and being able to touch somebody and not even getting them deeper into the pose, but being able to say, hey, you're okay. You can be here and let me just be here and ground you and be stable for you. That made a big difference in my practice also and being able to share that
Mhm.
with people. And then seeing people change, like seeing somebody come onto the mat who is all in their head. And then at the end of class, being like, oh my gosh, I feel so free. I feel so good. And then the physical changes, seeing somebody who can't even sit in Dandasana because their hamstrings are so tight. So they can't
Mm.
even sit in that pose. They have to get a bolster, whatever, to accommodate that tightness in their hammies. And then after a month coming to class, they're the ones who are doing full Paschimottanasana, full forward fold can do all these things and they're feeling better in their bodies. That seeing the transformation of other people definitely brings me deeper into this. And then that segued into, I got my Reiki certification.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
I didn't know when I got my Reiki certification that the state of Florida requires you to have a license in massage therapy. No idea. So I'm like, oh,
I did not know that either.
It's a new, right? It's not a thing, but it's like a revelation. So you get your certification, you can be a Reiki master and you can do all these Reiki things and you can do them. Like you can feel the energy, you can transform people, you can bring in align their chakras and all the stuff that you can do with Reiki, but not legally. And there are a lot of people in the state of Florida that they find out that you're doing it are going to turn you in. Trust me, they will. So I did not do it.
God.
Now, there's a little workaround in that you can become a minister. You can become an ordained minister. The Universal Life Church will give you a minister, whatever the heck it is, license, I guess. I don't know. So I'm also a minister, but that's only,
oh my God. Of course you are.
In that time period where I didn't have my license for massage therapy and I had my Reiki certification, I wanted to do Reiki. So I'm like, I'm going to get this ministership just so that if somebody comes after me, I can be like, I'm a minister. But I'm really not. But if you wanted to get married, I could
Priestess Debbie.
You. So
maybe when Paulo and I renew our vows, we'll have you.
Exactly. I can do that.
I love that you didn't want to do it like under the radar either. You were like, I'm doing this. I'm not taking any chances with Florida.
I am such a rule follower. It's kind of scary. I really am.
That's so interesting.
You wouldn't look at me and be like, oh, she follows all the rules. I follow all the rules. And I'm like, you should follow them too, because you're going to get in trouble.
Oh my gosh. Wait, I guess that kind of makes sense in how you did so well in corporate America for so long, because you have to be a rule follower in order to to make it, that for 30. How long were you in corporate America? Like 30 years?
32 years.
You said
you have to
32
remember,
years, yeah.
I'm Gen X. So growing up as Gen X, we were afraid of quicksand and we were afraid of going to jail. We always thought we were going to go to jail for some reason. I don't know why, but we were always afraid of going to jail. My mom's like, if you don't pay your taxes, you're going to jail. If you don't follow that rule, you're going to jail. We were going to spend a lot of time in jail. I'm like, I don't want to go to jail and I don't want to die in quicksand.
That's amazing because I must have I'm not Gen X, but I think I have a little bit of that in me because that's like up there. It's like top 5 fears, definitely.
And like, jail.
No, and I'm always like, oh my God, with taxes, especially taxes are a big one. Yeah. I'm like, I just give them to Paulo now. And I'm like, and just make sure he's a lawyer. So I'm like, I'm not liable anymore. Like you are. And he's like, we file jointly.
Right.
I'm like, I don't care. I don't know.
I've
he's
done
like,
my
ignorance is not a defense. I'm like, no, but it should be.
Oh, that's great.
So funny. Oh my God. Okay, wait. Okay. So you got your Reiki certification. So you leaped into that because some people do a lot of yoga. There's a difference between, oh, I go to a yoga class. I love it. It makes me feel really good. Maybe I'll try out meditating. But Reiki is a whole different, that's a bigger leap. So where did that first come into your life? Like, did you go to a Reiki session and you were like, I feel amazing? Or how did that happen?
I started doing Reiki circles in East Boca with Julie DeMarco. I love her. If you ever get a chance to go visit with her, she's amazing. And doing her Reiki circles and doing it with the crystals and starting meditating with crystals, I started seeing and feeling things in my body. And I'm like,
what did you start? Wait.
I am getting messages.
Okay.
So I would get messages. So there's some crystals that you can use and you can meditate with them and you can ask your spirit guides questions and then you get information back. So getting the messages and seeing the messages and then seeing the messages play out in my life, I'm like, this isn't random. This is not random. Absolutely not. When you're driving in your car and you get a message and you're like, that's weird. And it's not anything that has to do with anything that you've seen or done or heard recently. It's a message from your spirit guides. Think about it. When you think about somebody, suddenly the phone rings and they're on the other end of the phone. And you have to be careful who you conjure up. That was a big joke in the tech world. I would always make fun of my friends. I'm like, why did you think of her? Now she's calling. Yeah. There were a couple clients when they called, they're like, oh my God, I'm going to be on the phone for hours with this person. But we would definitely make it a point not to think of certain people so they wouldn't call. Because when you think that energy travels to them, they get it. And they're like, oh yeah, by the way, I should call them. And some people you want to call and some people you don't. But
and that's okay.
Enough, yeah, right. I had a falling out with a friend and she ghosted me. We didn't talk for a while. And then she came back and she's like, I've always thought I think about you a lot. And I'm like, I know. She's like, what do you mean? I'm like, because when you think about me, I know. I mean, If somebody's thinking about
Yeah.
you, you get that message, you get that information, you get that energy. So there's that. And then I started noticing that I get certain energies around certain people. If I would go out to some parties or being around certain groups of people, I would come home and have to sleep for days. I'm like, I'm exhausted because of the energy that they would just pull from me. I don't want to call them energy vampires because they're not. They would pull energy from me and I would allow it to happen. So I had to learn how to protect that and to take care of that and pull that in. And so I did my level 1 Reiki. And they're like, oh yeah, you have the ball of energy in your hands. And I'm like, I don't feel any ball of energy anywhere. Like, I don't really feel anything. This is weird. And I go do the body scan. I did the body scan. I'm like, okay, whatever. I could pretend like I'm feeling something, but I don't really feel anything. Then I did my level 2 with Jolie and we did some things and I'm like, I'm feeling all kinds of stuff. I'm seeing colors and it's just the wildest thing. So we did the body scan and then I had somebody do Reiki on me. When she did, my third eye chakra was a little off and she did it and all I could see was purple and just a beam of light shining into my forehead. I'm like, this is not random stuff. This is not.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. That and then practicing. So I practice a lot and I get visions. My biggest thing is I get messages. If I'm over you doing Reiki, I'll get a message and it'll be like, tell her to settle the fuck down. She's a little out of control. She needs to calm down. Or tell her she knows what she's doing. She's on the right path. I was doing a Reiki session one time and I got a message over somebody and it was, tell her I'm always here with her, not to worry. I'm like, okay, I don't know what that means, but I will. So I told her and she said, you know what? It's so funny. I just went to visit my dad in the grave yesterday and I'm just so distraught over it. I'm like, what's his message to you? You know, and I didn't know she went. I had no idea she went. Yeah. So that was his message to her. And I smell things. Yeah. So I'll smell like orange blossoms. I'll smell Christmas cookies. I will smell like a musty cedar chest. So just different scents, different things. And I'm just going to pass them along. I'm not going to interpret them because I don't know what they mean to you. I don't know, who that's from. So it's always interesting. And when I was younger, and this is going to sound really crazy, but
no, it's not.
We had, my brothers and I are convinced we had ghosts in our house. We lived on this house on Johnson Street in Salem and there were ghosts in the house. And there was a laundry chute.
Salem,
New Jersey.
Massachusetts.
Oh
okay.
gosh,
all right. Because if that's the case, like for sure it's a ghost.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay.
I know.
Salem, Massachusetts.
No, Salem, New Jersey. But we had a laundry
Salem,
chute
New Jersey, right.
from the 3rd floor that would go all the way down to the basement. And I would go to the bathroom in the middle of the night and that laundry chute would be right across from me in the bathroom. And there would be a voice that would just be laughing like No. There would be entities that would stand outside my parents' room and not let us in. There would be things that would come flying down out of the attic and shake the doors open. My brothers would come out of their room like crazy because the attic door was in their room. And they're like, there's somebody in there. So that house had a lot of entities in it. And I would always just like see and feel things. And I'd be like, okay, there's somebody else with us here. And get a little scared. But
I was going to say, did you get scared or were you always just, okay, you did. Yeah.
Some of them weren't very nice and some of them would scare me. And I'm like, I don't like you. Get out of my hair. Get out. Yeah. So a lot of them were, and just because I didn't know, it was just the unknown was a little frightening for me.
Sure. Yeah. Sure.
Definitely now that I look back on it, definitely had a connection to the other side in seeing, feeling, smelling, hearing, all that stuff. And then I kind of tuned it out for a while. And now, because my high school years was spent in a brand new house, which didn't have much background to it. So there weren't many things kind of floating around in there, but definitely feeling it when I'm with other people. Like somebody's with us. Who'd you bring?
Oh my God. Okay. So after tuning it out for a while, did it start to kind of peak back up when you started practicing yoga and then like Reiki? Or was it like when you started with Reiki, that's when it really
When I started with meditation. When I started meditating and getting quiet and I could hear the messages coming through. When I started to quiet my mind and allowing it, I kept my mind so busy for so long that there wasn't any space for it to come through. So when I started to quiet down quite a bit, then the space for it came through and I was starting getting a lot more.
Okay.
Yeah.
And have there ever been any messages like that have guided you towards doing something that you were like, what? Like, that's so random and you do it and it works out or no?
Not specifically for me. I mean, I feel like I'm just floating along this path. I don't feel as though, and this is going to sound really crazy, I don't really have a plan. Like, there's no real plan here. I'm just kind of floating along and just as things are presented to me, I mean, luckily I'm able to make a little bit of money with this, which is nice, with the massage therapy and with the Reiki and with the meditation and yoga. And that's awesome. But just kind of floating along and just letting the universe lead me. I know that sounds crazy. It's basically what I'm kind of doing now, is just letting the universe lead me. When I started the massage therapy thing, I went into this first class. I'm like, okay, we're going to learn how to massage people. I had no idea I needed to know the urinary system and the horror and the,
Oh yeah, it's like
and the
so
rest
in
of it.
depth, right?
Like, I'm not going to be a nurse, but you have to learn all of this medical stuff. So I'm like, all right, this is kind of cool. So granted, I mean, I failed my first test miserably. I think I got like a 30 on it. I'm like, no,
you were like, what?
I thought I was going to float through this, and that was not going to happen. So kind of buckled down and started studying, and definitely flowed through that one pretty easily finally when I realized what I was getting myself into. But now that I'm on the other side of it, again, putting shit out in the universe, that manifesting and that letting go, I'm real big on moons and manifesting on the
yeah,
new
you
moon.
are.
Yeah. And on Lionsgate Portal, like manifesting whenever I can manifest, I am manifesting. And I manifested the job that I have now. I said the only way that I'm going to stay in Boca with this massage therapy license is if I work at this specific spa that I love so very much. I sent them my resume. They hired me pretty much on the spot. So I'm like, all right, this is meant to be. And I'm thrilled to be there.
Hold up. Hold on. Okay. So manifesting. I love that. This was so not something that I thought we were really going to talk about, but I love it. I think it's one of those buzzwords right now. Like, oh, we're manifesting. You can manifest, whatever. Blah, blah, blah. What is manifesting to you?
You deserve everything you desire. You deserve everything you desire.
Okay.
Why don't you? Why don't you deserve to be happy? Why don't you deserve to have $1 million house in the middle of the ocean if that's what you want? Why don't you deserve to marry the man of your dreams or woman of your dreams or whatever it is of your dreams? Why don't you deserve to pursue the career that feeds your soul, that sets you on fire? Why don't you deserve all that? We deserve everything we desire. And you put it out in the universe, you speak it into existence, you believe it, and it's going to happen.
And you seem to have no problem believing that it's going to happen.
Absolutely.
And I think that's where people get a little confused, not confused, but just stuck with manifesting, is that they really
don't trust the process.
They don't trust the process, and they don't believe at their core, it is going to happen. So how do you just believe that it's going to happen? How do you get to the point where you're so sure and certain that it's going to happen when you manifest?
Why are we here? Why are we here? Why are we on the earth? Are we here to be slaves to something that we don't love? I don't believe that. I believe that we're here to be happy, spread happiness, spread healing, spread life.
Right.
That's why we're here.
I know.
It's way bigger than that, but that's why we're here. And
no, I agree.
That's another thing. When I was younger, I used to drive myself crazy. I remember sitting on the swings and looking up at the moon, and the moon would follow you. When you would swing in the swing set, with the moon would follow you. And I would think,
yeah,
look at that moon up there. Why is that moon here? Why am I here? And then I would go down a rabbit hole of why am I here?
I know. Yeah. Yeah.
I tried to go down that rabbit hole too much, but it is an existential crisis. But why are we here?
Yeah.
I really believe that we're here to be happy. We're here to make others happy. We're not here to make people miserable. We're here to make everybody
whatever
happy.
Happiness means to you.
Exactly. Whatever that is to you. Maybe that is it. For me, for 30 years, it was being in the tech world. And then for a while, it was raising my kids and being in the tech world. And it's funny, if you want to talk about manifesting. Now, when I met my husband, I'm like, oh, we're going to get married. Absolutely. 6 months, you're going to propose to me. It's going to happen. And it did. And that was back in the 90s. And it did. And I'm like, okay. We're going to be married for a year. And I'm going to get pregnant and have my first baby. That happened. And then I'm like, okay, it's time for a second one. Now, granted, the second one I had a miscarriage. It's fine. That was just what was supposed to happen. But 3 months after, I was pregnant again. So that happened. And then I wanted a third. He didn't, but that was my choice. So I had a third. Thankfully, we did, because she's the best.
Yeah.
But, just believing throughout my whole life that if this is what my mom was always like, if it was meant to be, it's going to be. And she's not wrong. If it's meant to be, it's going to be. And in my world, if I wanted it, it was meant to be. And luckily, it's happened all of these years. But, you deserve everything you desire. You have to trust the process. It's not always going to happen when you are like, I want this right now, and it's not going to happen tomorrow. You have to, you have to put in the work. You have to manifest it. You have to speak it. You have to talk about it. A lot of people don't want to talk about their dreams and desires with somebody because oh, what if they shoot me down? Then that person probably shouldn't be in your life, but that's a side story we'll get into. But, you have to surround yourself with people who believe in you and that will share your visions with you. And you have to trust that is somebody going to take my ideas? Fine, take it, run with it. If that works for you, then go for it. I'm not going to hoard all my ideas. And I've got lots and lots of them, but
That's so interesting because I think that's something that, and I don't know if this is just something that like everybody feels, but I don't know. I feel like that is something that I have struggled with in the past where like I'll have an idea and I like keep it really like secret and I don't want to tell anybody about it because I don't want someone to take it. And then like most of the time I don't even end up doing anything with it. But even just starting this podcast and my coaching and all of that, like it's been so different because I'm like, I'm just going to put it out there and not really worry about if someone else of course, there's this quote. It's one of my favorite quotes by the woman that wrote Elizabeth Gilbert. She wrote Big Magic and Eat, Pray, Love. And it's something along these lines. Most things have been done before, but they haven't been done by you.
Yes.
And
I love that.
I think it's just such an important thing to carry with you that whatever you are doing, there are so many yoga teachers in the world, but your class is so different because you're teaching it, or your Reiki session is so different because you're doing it.
But I think the biggest thing is that if you're authentic and you do it with love, you're going to do it better than anybody anyway. So if Susie comes along and she's like, I like your idea of a workshop for manifesting, I'm going to go do it. You go do it, Susie, but I'm going to do it with love. I'm going to do it very authentically. I'm going to do it from my heart. And that's the best I can do.
Right.
And that's what's going to make it special.
That's what's going to make it special. That's what's going to make it original to you. Mm-hmm. And so with all of that and being so connected to your belief in deserving what you desire, you also said that you're just kind of floating, like there's no real plan, which I love. I love that because like I freak out about, like I'm not a planner, but with my life, I'm like, oh my God, I need a plan. So how does purpose fit into floating through the excitement of life?
I don't know. I really don't know.
You're just kind of here having a good time.
I'm here hoping everybody's happy. That's the purpose.
That's like the purpose. That is the purpose. That's like what everybody wants, right? Like I think that's kind of what Abraham Hicks and Esther Hicks, that whole belief system is basically like, I'm here to have a good time.
I'm here
like,
and I want to share it with everybody. Every President's Day, I do a weekend retreat down here and it's yoga and it's snorkeling and it's paddleboarding and everything like that. And the biggest thing for me is just sharing my love for the Keys with everybody. I want everybody to come down here and experience this. The beauty of the ocean, the beauty of getting out there and saltwater therapy. I know it's cliche, but getting into the salt water and reconnecting to the ocean and reconnecting to just that peace, that floating. It's again, the floating thing, I think. But so the purpose is to share things and let everybody know that you don't have to hustle all the time. You can kind of relax a little bit, enjoy life. Everything's going to be okay. Yeah. Everything's really going to be okay. In the end, it's going to be okay. Basically. And if it's not okay, it's not the end.
Oh, I love that. That's amazing. If it's not okay, it's not the end. Whoa. That's amazing. Okay. I have like so many things. We're going to have to do another episode with you because you have so much to give. But what I want to know is you had this really rare ability to gather all of these new skills and apply them in the real world. So you kind of have this way of like carving out a space for yourself to provide whatever you're doing, whether it's like yoga, Reiki, all of that, which we kind of got into with manifesting. That's kind of how you do that. But how do you start? Yeah, I mean, you start monetizing it also, which I think is rare and interesting because a lot of people will get these types of certifications and they're these like really sweet, creative people who mean and have the best intentions, but they lack that kind of practical skill set to make it a career. Other than manifesting, is there any way that you kind of are able to do that time and time again, or is it just solely manifesting? You gotta trust that your ideas are good. You really do. You have to believe in yourself because if you don't, nobody's going to believe in you. And trust me, I've worked in a couple yoga studios where they're like, you're not a good fit here. I'm like, yes, I am, but you don't see it, but that's okay. I can go someplace else if you don't like me, whatever. This is going to happen whether you want it to or not. So I'm going to go over here and see if they like me better, and we'll see if that works over there. And then just trusting your ideas and just keep pitching your ideas. Know that they're good ideas and don't let one person tell you
that it's not a good idea. If you believe in it, share it. It's a great idea. Keep pushing it. Keep taking it out there. If Bob doesn't like it, take it to Sue. If Sue doesn't like it, Sally's going to love it. Somebody's going to love it. Somebody's going to see your value. Keep knocking on the doors and find yourself a really good support system. My husband is amazing. He supports all my crazy ideas.
Yes.
He's like, that's a fabulous idea. You should definitely quit your job and go get a license in massage therapy. Yes. I said I'm going to do that.
You're like, good. That's what I want to do. How did you know? Oh my God. Okay, wait. But that's really interesting. So have a good support system. And then, okay, this is like one thing that I really wanted to talk to you about. There's always kind of this murky kind of like ickiness around talking about money as it relates to your art, whatever that art is, whether it's like performance or the healing arts, whatever. But I think especially with healing arts, because they're rooted in ancient teachings or spirituality. And I think sometimes that kind of taboo-ness of talking about money gets amplified because it's like, oh,
right.
Namaste, now pay. And I'm wondering, how do you deal with that? Was that something you had to get over?
What I charge for what I do is very aligned with what I'm doing. I'm not overcharging.
Okay.
And I'm not trying to make money. Like my goal with this is not to make money.
Yeah.
And if the money comes, that's great. But if it doesn't come, I'm okay with that too. I do a lot of stuff that I don't charge for. Like when I was doing my massage therapy classes, I was definitely offering free massages until I got my license, just to be able to get that practice out and to share it with people. And if I could, if I was independently wealthy, I would definitely give away massages for free. I would definitely do Reiki for free. I do some community yoga so that people don't have to pay for everything. So I feel like what I charge is definitely in line with what I'm doing, and I'm not overcharging for it. So I'm not here to make a profit for it. I'm here to just pay some bills. That's all I want to do.
Yeah. And so you kind of touched on this, but when you're new at something, and like you just got your massage therapy license, for anyone who's listening who just got a certification in something, how do you know how to price yourself and against competition, or are like, should you even worry about that? Should you just try to do some things for free just to get a handle on it and then go and try to get a class at a studio? Or like, what advice would you give to someone who just got their yoga certification or their massage therapy
I would
license?
give away a few free massages and get feedback. Make sure you're good, because you could suck at that and that would be terrible and you would not get paid at all. And you need to maybe find something better. As far as the yoga classes go, definitely do some with your friends. Invite some friends over and do some in your backyard, just to get an idea if you're good at it, because you might hate it. Like you might start massaging somebody and be like, oh, I don't know if I like this or not. They're sweaty, or they have this, or they have that, or you might not love it as much as you thought you did. So make sure you're good at it. Get the feedback, see what people think. And if the feedback is positive and genuine, not the bullshit where you're, oh my God, you're the most amazing yoga instructor, and then you find out you really aren't, offer some community classes and definitely say, I want real feedback. I don't want positive. I want whatever feedback you can give me, so that if I'm not good at this, I can get better, or I can maybe pivot a little bit if I need to. Yeah, take a turn a little bit. With the massages, I think I did probably over 200 before I got my license, just to get everybody's feedback on what I was doing. And the feedback was good.
Nice.
You've got great hands. You've got great pressure. I love the massage. And I had one guy that kept coming back to me. He was a therapist also. And he says, I made the mistake when I started that my prices were low. And he says, it's hard for me to raise them. He says, make sure you get paid what you're worth. He says, you're amazing. Definitely go out and charge what you're worth. So other professionals in your industry, go teach to other yoga teachers. Definitely. That's because they're going to say that word that you're using for that arm is awful. Don't ever say that again. Or they're going to say, that's a great cue. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. Or you'll see them like while you're teaching, if you give a cue and they're all looking at you.
That did not work well at all.
I should take that note. Like I did not communicate that well. Yeah. But that is such an interesting point you bring up. Like having an expectation of something, the result isn't always going to match the expectation. So you might think, oh, I love going to yoga, so I'm going to go get my certification. But there were a lot of people, especially in our group that we did our teacher training with, ended up not teaching, and some were there just to deepen their practice though. And that's okay. That's okay. Like I'm a big believer in give it a go. and you won't
And it's
wonder
okay because
later.
some things you're going to fall flat on your face with. You're like, oh, that was a bad idea.
Yeah, but that's okay, but that's also an interesting thing. So it's kind of a interesting a line to walk because you have to give it a go, see if you like it, and then there's a feedback of maybe you're not so great at it, but if you do like it and you're getting some feedback that's, you could do this different, maybe try it this way. How would you, if someone's in that kind of position, what would you tell them? Would you tell them kind of keep going with it, or
pivot?
Would you be like,
I would say pivot. Yeah, reevaluate.
What would you say
Go back and reevaluate.
You would say
when
pivot.
I first started teaching yoga, I was real big on arm balances, handstands, inversions, and stuff like that. I'm like, everybody needs to do these. I learned quickly that not everybody wants to do them. And the vast majority of people don't want anything to do with them. So that's not my, I mean, I hate to say it, but that's not my money maker. If I'm going to do an inversion class, I know I'm going to have a very small turnout. Now, if I do a class on manifesting, if I do a class on the full moon, I'm going to have a full class on that one. Reevaluate, pivot, continue to do it if it makes you happy. And I still think that there are some people who want to do it, but it's not the one that's going to bring in all the money for me. And even with my retreats, last year, my retreat, huge sellout. This year, I barely broke even, but I love it so much that I'm going to do it again next year because I do think that it's something I want to share.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you say the inversion classes don't sell out as well as the manifesting or the full moon when, I mean, just in this conversation alone, you're clearly very excited about manifesting and excited about full moon rituals. So I don't think that's a coincidence that those are the classes and workshops that sell out most for you because you're bringing that energy. So my question was, if anyone is at any point in their life, really, but I think it is harder to do the older you get, changing careers and making a pivot because you kind of get, it's kind of what we were talking about with the past. It's very predictable and it's comfortable and you kind of sit in that comfortable space, and you have always been super okay with being in the uncomfortable space. And I was wondering what you would tell people who want to, explore a more creative career option that have been in a steady career, or someone who, has put a lot of time and effort and money into an education and career, and they had this kind of comfortable thing going, but they're like, oh, like, is this it? And I think that's something that a lot of people feel and don't want to either admit, or they kind of just take it for what it is. And they're like, I guess this is it, like whatever. What would you tell someone in that predicament?
Definitely lead by example, and I always say that yoga helps you find comfort in uncomfortable spaces. So that's, there's that, finding that comfort in finding that, in being uncomfortable and being okay with that. But for me, it's leading by example. I was always authentic with my situation. When my job ended in August, I walked into my studio the next day. I'm like, I have no job and don't know what I'm going to do with my life. But we made a joke out of it because my yoga sequences got very creative. And I'm like, literally did yoga for about 10 hours today. So here you go, guys. Let's have fun with this. And then, doing the whole thing where I was looking for a job and not enjoying it. And I'm like, I don't know if I love this anymore. I just don't feel like this is the world for me anymore. And then figuring that I maybe want to go get my massage therapy license, and then going back to school and just doing it. And again, just floating along, just following kind of what I felt like I should be doing. And I feel like people saw me doing it. They knew I was doing it because I shared it with my classes. I shared it with my friends and my family. And I've had since then I've had 4 specific people come up to me and say that, look, I see what you've done and you are happy. You are content. You are just so pleasant to be around. I quit my job today. I'm like, oh, good for you. And they're like, I've never been happier. I walked away. I'm not going back. And I've never been happier. I can focus more on my kids. I can focus more on myself. I can focus more on what I want to do. And then, figuring that out. So I think the biggest thing is just showing people that it's okay. If you're going to flop, you're going to flop. But, the universe is going to hold you up. The universe is going to help you out. And my kids know this, and I share that with them all the time too. And my oldest is a trauma nurse, and she started with COVID, like we were talking, that she started in the middle of COVID, and that was a lot. I won't get into the details of it, but it took a toll on her. And I think anybody that was in nursing or in healthcare during that period of time, if you came out and you're okay,
I was going to say, nobody came out of that who was a frontline worker came out unscathed. Like, there's just no way.
Not.
And so I mean, she was what, 24, 25?
She's 24. She just graduated college, her very first job, very first step into the door. Mom, there's a bad virus going around. I don't know what's going on. And I'm like, I don't know either. And then she ended up going into, she was going in every day and they were overworked. And they were seeing people die. And it was just so much for her. And we left her. We went to our place in the Keys and left her at home because I didn't know what she was bringing home. I'm like, you seem comfortable with this. I'm not. I'm going to let you do your thing and we're going to go ahead and give you your space that you need. But after going through it, and now she's a trauma nurse, and that's a lot too, seeing people come in with all the traumas that happen. She thinks that she might want to step aside, away from bedside a little bit and go into education. And she's like, do you think I should? I'm like, absolutely. And she's like, yeah, I see that you're okay. You survived. I think I want to do it. I'm like, yeah, you definitely should, continue your education, always learn, always keep moving forward.
There's no reason to not grow in whatever way feels right in that time of your life. And I will say, I have absolutely no medical background whatsoever, but to be a nurse coming out of school and going into COVID immediately, those years of experience are exponentially more than what they are on paper because, the amount that she experienced just emotionally, physically, and intellectually must just be so much more than she would ever have experienced just coming out into, pre-COVID conditions.
Yeah.
So, but good for her for watching you and learning from you and knowing that isn't it, that there are more options out there once something starts to feel overwhelming or not sitting right. So, okay. Afterglow session. All right.
Let's go.
So, a bing, bang, boom. All right. What advice would you give to your younger self and at what age would you give that advice?
So we're going to go back to about when I was 16. I had a pretty crappy breakup with somebody and I was wallowing in my sadness and laying in bed and being sad. And I thought, you know what? Why am I relying on somebody else for me to be happy? I'm responsible for my own happiness. So we're going to go out. We're going to figure out what we're going to do with our lives and we're going to make this person regret they ever left me.
I love that you're 16 and you know that. But was there someone who instilled that belief in you?
I was made to be very independent at a very young age. I grew up in the middle of two brothers who were boys, so I was
rough and tumble boys.
Rough and tumble boys. I was left on my own a lot. Again, Gen X, you were left outside to figure things out a lot on your own. So, I did a lot on my own and I just knew that I had to make myself happy. And, it's not what people say to you, what people do, whatever, just whatever.
It will be whatever it will be. There was something I saw on Instagram the other day and I was like, I don't know why. I could just picture Debbie saying this. I heard it in your voice. And it was like, my mom told me, I came home and I told my mom I had a shitty day. And she was like, okay, go outside and eat a banana. I was like, that's such a mom thing to say. And I heard it in your voice. I was like, that's something Debbie would say. It's telling people to eat bananas. Maybe I knew that. I don't know. But I was like, that's amazing.
So
just go sit outside and eat a banana. How
why didn't see and have a banana?
Yeah, you'll feel better. Okay. What is the best career advice you've ever been given?
Oh my gosh. There used to be a thing that I had on my computer that said something to the effect that if somebody tells you something is impossible, prove them wrong. I got to find it. It was a Dilbert. And I had it on my computer for 30 years. And it was something to the effect of, if somebody tells you that it's impossible, prove them wrong.
I love it. And that kind of answers my next question. But what is your favorite quote?
My favorite quote is, maybe the journey isn't about becoming anything. Maybe it's about becoming all that shit that's not you. All of those labels that get put on you. Maybe it's about, because I was always told that I was a bad bitch and I was tough and rumble. And I'm not. I'm a lover. I'm a healer. I'm not. I'm built like a Viking, but I'm not going to come burn your village down.
You are built like a Viking.
I'm going to come help you build it up.
I love it. Okay. And what is the single best daily practice that you have in your life right now and why?
Taking a walk every morning with my husband.
Oh,
we walk our dogs every single morning. That is something we do together every morning. We connect. Sometimes we fight with each other and I walk way far ahead of him. but most of the times we just connect for about it. It's about 20 minutes, just you and I together, bouncing ideas off of each other.
I love that. When did you start doing that?
We've been doing it for a long while. We've always spent time together. We've always made it a point for he and I to spend at least 15, 20 minutes together. I had a friend come over one time when the kids were young, and she says, I thought it was hysterical. We came into your house and all your kids were inside, and they're like, where's mom and dad? And they're like, oh, they're out on the patio. We're not allowed out there right now. They're talking.
Nice.
And we were, I definitely talked to him. He's my best friend, so I share everything with him. So taking that morning walk with him for probably about the past 5 or 6 years, I've been doing that.
Okay.
But always having that moment, after work for like an hour, have a glass of wine together, just having time with him every day is the most important thing.
That is such a sweet answer. I love it. I love it. Okay. That was awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the pod. And and dealing with all of our technical issues, which hopefully we'll be able to figure out in
I know, right?
I don't know. But thank you so much. And if you are in the South Florida area, go check out Debbie Troyan. She teaches at Debbie?
Yoga Cure. I'm teaching at Yoga Cure. I am a massage therapist at Now I Spa. I just started teaching yoga on the rooftop there also. So check out my schedule for that. Keys Yoga and Wellness is the name of my company that we will be doing retreats to the Keys and some other things. So
awesome. Okay, cool. And you can follow her at
Keys_Yoga Girl on Instagram and TikTok and all of the platforms.
All of the socials. Okay, cool.
All the socials.
All right. Thank you, Debbie, so much. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Glow State. Please take a moment to subscribe to the show, and then be sure to share it with a friend you know who would love a little glow in their life. I'll see you next time. Now, go glow.